7 Psychological Facts About Crushes Introduction. Let's be honest, almost everyone has had a crush at some point in their lives. Whether it was that classmate in high school, a coworker you can't stop thinking about, or even a stranger you barely spoke to but instantly felt drawn toward. Crushes are a universal human experience. And while having a crush might feel overwhelming, confusing, and exciting all at once, there's actually some fascinating psychology behind it. Crushes aren't just random, they're deeply connected to how our brains and bodies work. In this script, we're going to explore 7 psychological facts about crushes that explain why they affect us so much. These insights can help you understand yourself better, and maybe even handle those fluttery feelings with more clarity. Each fact reveals something unique about how attraction works. From the chemicals that light up in our brains, to the way our bodies betray us with blushing and racing heartbeats, to why we sometimes obsess over someone we hardly know. By the end, you'll see crushes from a new perspective, not just as embarrassing or frustrating, but as a fascinating glimpse into human psychology. So let's dive in. 1. Dopamine boost, the brain's happy high. One of the most powerful things that happens when you develop a crush is the release of dopamine, often called the feel-good chemical. Dopamine is part of the brain's reward system, and it makes us feel motivated, excited, and even euphoric. Just thinking about your crush or receiving even the smallest acknowledgement from them, a smile, a text, or a quick glance can trigger a flood of dopamine. This is why crushes often feel addictive. Your brain begins associating your crush with pleasure, so you naturally want more interactions with them. In fact, scientists have compared the brain activity of people thinking about their crush to that of people using certain addictive substances. Both situations light up similar regions in the brain. That's why you might feel like you can't stop thinking about your crush, or why you get a rush of excitement just seeing their name pop up on your phone. Your brain is rewarding you, almost training you to seek more of those dopamine hits. But here's the catch. While dopamine makes crushes feel exhilarating, it can also cloud judgment. You might overlook flaws or even make irrational choices, just because your brain is so focused on chasing that reward. Understanding this can help you step back and see things more clearly when you're swept up in the emotional roller coaster of having a crush. 2. The idealization effect. Seeing them through rose-colored glasses when you have a crush. It's almost impossible not to idealize them. Psychologists call this the halo effect, when one positive trait, like someone being attractive or kind, makes us assume they're amazing in every way. Suddenly, you might start thinking your crush is smarter, funnier, or more talented than they actually are. This idealization happens because your brain is focusing more on what you want to see rather than what's truly there. For example, if your crush holds the door for someone, you might interpret that as proof they're incredibly generous and thoughtful, even though it's just a polite habit. Similarly, small flaws or red flags might get downplayed or completely ignored. The idealization effect isn't always negative. It can make the early stages of attraction feel magical. But it also comes with risks. If you build up a version of your crush in your mind that doesn't match reality, you may feel disappointed later when their true personality shows through. It's like projecting your fantasies onto another person without really knowing who they are. Interestingly, studies have shown that idealization is strongest in short-term crushes. The less you know someone, the easier it is to fill in the gaps with your imagination. That's why celebrity crushes can feel so intense you're projecting an image of perfection onto someone you don't actually know personally. The takeaway? Crushes can feel amazing, but it's important to check yourself. Are you liking the real person or the version you've created in your head? 3. Daydreaming and obsession. When your mind can't let go, one of the most recognizable signs of having a crush is the constant daydreaming about them. You imagine scenarios where you talk, laugh, or even fall in love. You replay past interactions in your mind, analyzing every detail, what they said, how they looked at you, or whether their smile meant something deeper. This mental loop can feel impossible to break. Psychologically, this happens because your brain is releasing both dopamine and oxytocin. Dopamine, as mentioned earlier, fuels desire and excitement, while oxytocin, the bonding hormone, makes you feel connected, even if the connection is mostly imagined. Together, these chemicals reinforce thoughts of your crush, making them pop up in your mind over and over. This is also why crushes can sometimes feel obsessive. You might find yourself checking their social media, looking for excuses to bump into them, or losing focus on other areas of your life. In extreme cases, this is called limerence, a psychological state of intense infatuation where someone becomes the center of your thoughts and emotions. The good news is that daydreaming about a crush isn't always unhealthy. It can boost creativity, improve mood, and even motivate you to pursue new opportunities. The danger comes when the daydreaming replaces reality, when you spend more time living in fantasy than actually interacting with your crush or focusing on your own growth. So if you ever catch yourself lost in thought about your crush for hours, remember, it's your brain's chemistry at work. The trick is balancing the fantasy with reality. 4. Physiological responses. Your body betrays you. Have you ever noticed your heart racing, your palms sweating, or your face turning red when you're around your crush? That's not your imagination. It's your body responding to attraction. When you see or interact with your crush, your brain triggers the sympathetic nervous system, also known as the fight or flight response. Adrenaline and cortisol are released, which speed up your heartbeat, make your hands shaky, and sometimes cause your stomach to feel like it's flipping. This is where the phrase butterflies in your stomach comes from. It's literally your body redirecting blood flow as part of a stress response. Interestingly, these physical symptoms are almost identical to what you'd experience during moments of fear or anxiety. That's why crushes can feel so overwhelming. Your body is literally reacting as though something major is happening, even if it's just a casual conversation. Blushing is another big giveaway. When you feel attracted or embarrassed, blood vessels in your face dilate, making you flush. Scientists believe blushing evolved as a social signal, showing vulnerability or honesty, both of which can make you more appealing. So, if you've ever felt frustrated that your body gives you away when you're around your crush, remember that these reactions are deeply human. They're not signs of weakness. They're signs that your brain and body are working exactly as evolution designed them to. 5. Mirror neurons and mimicry. Unconscious connection. One fascinating psychological fact about crushes is that we often mirror the person we're attracted to without realizing it. This is thanks to mirror neurons, special brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else doing the same thing. When you have a crush, you might unconsciously copy their gestures, posture, or even the way they speak. For example, if your crush leans forward while talking, you might find yourself doing the same. If they laugh, you might laugh a little louder. This mimicry is a natural way of building rapport and signaling attraction. Psychologists call this the chameleon effect. It's a subtle but powerful form of social bonding. People generally feel more comfortable around others who mirror them because it creates a sense of similarity and understanding. So, when you mirror your crush, you're actually increasing the chances that they'll feel connected to you, even if you're not aware you're doing it. What's even more interesting is that this goes both ways. If your crush mirrors your actions, it can be a sign that they're attracted to you too. It's like a subconscious dance, where both people are communicating through body language more than words. However, mimicry isn't foolproof, and it's not something you can force without seeming unnatural. The key is that it usually happens automatically, driven by your brain's instinctive desire to connect. So next time you catch yourself picking up your crush's habits or mannerisms, don't worry. It's not weird. It's just your brain's way of saying, I like this person, and I want to feel closer to them. 6. Boost in motivation and self-improvement. Crushes don't just affect your emotions. They can also inspire real changes in your behavior. Psychologists have found that having a crush can significantly increase motivation and self-improvement. You might suddenly want to dress better, work harder, or develop new skills, all because you want to impress or feel worthy of your crush. This phenomenon is partly due to what's known as the self-expansion theory. When we're attracted to someone, we see them as a chance to expand our own identity. By improving ourselves, we're not only trying to gain their attention, but also aligning with the qualities we admire in them. For example, if your crush is athletic, you might feel motivated to exercise more. If they're creative, you might want to explore your own artistic side. This boost in motivation isn't always about external appearance. It can also inspire personal growth. People often report feeling more driven to succeed academically, professionally, or socially when they have a crush. It's as if the energy of attraction translates into a general zest for life. Of course, there's a flip side. If the motivation becomes too tied to pleasing your crush, it can lead to stress or unhealthy self-comparisons. The healthiest way to channel this energy is to focus on improvements that benefit you, regardless of whether your crush notices. So, while crushes can be distracting, they can also be powerful motivators. They remind us that attraction isn't just about longing. It can push us to become better versions of ourselves. 7. The temporary nature of crushes. One of the most surprising psychological facts about crushes is that they're often temporary. Research suggests that the average lifespan of a crush is about 4 months to 2 years. After that, the intense feelings usually fade, unless they're replaced by deeper emotional intimacy and genuine connection. This happens because crushes are fueled by novelty and uncertainty. Your brain is excited by the unknown, constantly trying to figure out whether your feelings are reciprocated. Over time, however, the mystery wears off, and your brain adjusts to the idea of this person being part of your reality. Without the constant dopamine rush, the crush starts to lose its intensity. That's why many childhood or teenage crushes seem so dramatic at the time, but later feel almost funny to think about. They were real in the moment, but they were based more on excitement and imagination than lasting compatibility. Of course, some crushes do evolve into long-term relationships. When a crush is nurtured with communication, trust, and shared experiences, it can transition from infatuation to love. The difference is that love relies less on dopamine highs and more on oxytocin and serotonin, which creates stability, attachment, and comfort. So if you're dealing with a crush that feels all-consuming, remember, time will almost always shift the intensity. Either the feelings will fade, or they'll grow into something deeper. In either case, it's not permanent, and that perspective can make crushes easier to handle. Conclusion: crushes are one of the most universal and sometimes confusing experiences of being human. They can make you feel euphoric one moment and insecure the next. But when we look at them through the lens of psychology, they make a lot more sense. We learned that crushes are powered by brain chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, making them feel addictive and exciting. We saw how they cause us to idealize people, turning ordinary traits into signs of perfection. We explored how daydreaming, obsession, and even body language mimicry all stem from our brain's wiring to bond and connect. We also discovered how crushes can motivate us to improve ourselves, and why they usually fade unless they transform into deeper love. The most important thing to remember is that crushes aren't just silly emotions. They're part of being human. They reveal how our brains are wired for connection, reward, and growth. Even if a crush doesn't lead to a relationship, it can still teach us something about ourselves, what we value, what excites us, and how we grow through attraction. So the next time you find yourself with butterflies in your stomach, racing thoughts, and a goofy smile you can't hide. Take a step back and appreciate the psychology at play. Your crush isn't just about that person. It's also about you, your brain, and your incredible capacity for connection.